Welcome back to From the Shed End podcast with myself, T.Dot. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Now, before we get into the content, as I always say on these videos, please go and subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to follow the social accounts, hit the Linktree link in the description. That takes you to all the social accounts as well. And also back to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. Now, since my last video, Graham Potter has been announced as the new head coach at Chelsea. It's all been confirmed. The money's been paid to Brighton. He's now in the hot seat. He's got a massive seat and shoes to fill after the departure of Thomas Tuchel. And with Graham Potter coming in, I think one thing I do want to say on these videos that I'll be doing, and what I've probably said over the past couple of days about the whole situation with Thomas Tuchel and Graham Potter, is because we're supporting Graham Potter, it doesn't mean that we're not supporting Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel was a brilliant manager for us, just like Frank Lampard was at times as well. I still think Thomas Tuchel, it was written for him. It was bound to happen at some point, but it's sad that he's gone, sad that he's not the Chelsea manager, but we have to look forward now. And as people keep telling me, we're 6 games into the season. We should have been playing Fulham today. Unfortunately, we're not, due to the circumstances that's happened across the country and the morning that we're in at the moment. So, of course, it gives Graham Potter, unfortunately, that extra time with the players, which is good. It gives him more time to understand what the players have, the needs of the players, what he needs to do tactically as well. And I think also as well, what I've been reading, it's given Thomas Tuchel, I've still got Thomas Tuchel on the brain, it's given Graham Potter the opportunity to speak to one or two of the senior players individually. You also think the likes of Patrick Aubameyang, who was signed on deadline day, very much a Thomas Tuchel signing. I'm sure that Graham Potter's given those reassurances to those players that have just come through the door, and some of the ones that were potentially on the way out, Christian Pulisic or Hakim Ziyech, those kind of players. So I think it's something that, I mean, in hindsight, the move from Brighton to Chelsea, of course, it's a massive step up, but it's one that I feel like Graham Potter can actually do well in if he's backed 100% by the owners, he's given 100% commitment by the players, and his coaching staff are on the ball. I think it's a brilliant signing, brilliant appointment, and I think he's a young manager that's coming through the ranks. Done his business at Swansea, done his business at Brighton, to name a few of the clubs, and I think he's a good appointment for us. I think my only downfall is he hasn't got that Champions League experience, which is a massive thing that you need to have. We kind of saw that with Frank Lampard at times, that he didn't really have the experience going into certain games, and sometimes you do need that. If you're going in against a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, you're going to the Bernabeu, you're going to the Nou Camp, or you're going to anywhere across Europe, it is going to be difficult, I think, for Graham Potter, and this is why I think it's so important that Todd Boehly and the board give him the opportunity, give him the time, give him the amount of time. Whether, I think he's on a 5-year deal, which I'm pretty sure I read a couple of days ago, that he's on a 5-year contract, which is understandable. Now, have they given him a 5-year contract because they actually understand that the project is going to take some time? It's not going to be overnight success with Graham Potter. There is going to be potentially this season, or maybe the season after, where we don't win any trophies. We might miss out on top 4, but I feel like sometimes you have to go down to go back up. And this could be one of those moments where, we talk about Graham Potter in a couple of seasons and say, do you remember those days when, he didn't win us anything, or we were about to sack him, or the fans turned on him? But I think the fans have to back him, and I think we have to be very pragmatic and understanding that we're not going to just overnight, potentially not going to be where Man City are or Liverpool are, or we might drop out the top 4. And I think as long as Chelsea fans, as long as the owners, like I said, the commitment there from the players, this is a good appointment, a really good appointment. He done really well at Brighton. You look at the team that he had at Brighton and what he did and what he accomplished. A top half finish, I think, for Brighton one season. It's good. It's good what he done for them. But I think this is a massive step up. You're talking about a manager that's going to be amongst the Antonio Contes, amongst the Eric Ten Hags, Pep Guardiola. He's in that mix of conversation now. So, he's a small fish in a big pond, 100%. And I think he has to get this right. you do look at some of those players that we've got there now. Could they have done more for Thomas Tuchel? Could they have said a bit more in terms of, opening their mouth amongst the dressing room? There was definitely clicks and fractions and tension amongst the dressing room. You could see that. It was clear to see, if not more vividly than against Dinamo Zagreb last week. But this is a moment now for these players to come in fresh canvas, fresh blanket of everything's just reset back to zero and give their all. Christian Pulisic, who was almost on the way out over the summer, Hakim Ziyech, another one. It'll be interesting how he lines up the team, and it's a shame that the game, as I said today, against Fulham was postponed, because I think it would have been a good, in terms of how we played against Dinamo Zagreb. We're now having to wait a period of time before our games kick off again. And we've got an international period coming up soon as well, which won't help in terms of trying to get the momentum for the team. And, you just want those games to come thick and fast in some ways, so you can get to the level of capability that I suppose he needs the team to be at. So, it's the pause, however long it's going to be. Hopefully it's just a week, has come at potentially the wrong time. But at the same time as well, this is a crucial time as a Chelsea fan, because you go on the timeline, you go on Instagram, and it does, again, with everything we kind of do at the club, it has a mixed opinion with everything, and we have to back him. I just think we have to back the manager. We have to be behind him now. He's the gaffer. Just the way that we back Lampard, even when he was potentially underperforming. The same with Tuchel when the results weren't necessarily the right results. We have to back Graham Potter. It's as simple as that. And my only downside is we've obviously had to pay off Thomas Tuchel, which I think was around 16 million, potentially 20 million. We've had to pay 20 million for Graham Potter and his backroom staff. And if we sack Graham Potter, I think it's a further 30 million pounds. So it's a massive gamble to take as an owner when you've already just pumped a lot of money into the club as well. Ideally, you want it to work. You want it to be the thing that we're talking about here in a couple of seasons as one of the masterstrokes from the owner. But if it goes wrong, you do have to look back and think, should you have kept Thomas Tuchel? Should he have been given more time? And I know there's, me for one, I do think that over time, we have sacked a world-class manager. It took, a couple of days' time since the sacking, you look back and you think, we sacked a world-class manager and brought in someone that doesn't really have the experience, at top level. He really doesn't. He hasn't played at these top-level matches where, the egos, you look at some of the egos and the personalities, the players, the Thiago Silvas, the Edouard Mendy, who, we know can be a bit up and down. Hakim Ziyech, another one who can disrupt a dressing room by what we're hearing from reports. And Christian Pulisic, Patrick Aubameyang, the big names that he's dealing with now. So it's one of those that's going to go one or two ways. And fingers crossed it goes the right way. Fingers crossed we get the best out of this squad. And fingers crossed that it just works. You want it to work for not just us, but for the manager. You want the manager to be able to, however long he's at the club, you want him to walk away with a massive green tick against his name on his CV, however long he's at the club for. But one thing we have to do, we have to back him. The board have to back him. He needs time. People are saying, we've brought all these players in. I still believe the majority of those players were Todd Boehly's signings as opposed to Thomas Tuchel. So I think, he has to get on board with what the vision of the ownership is and understand where they want to take the club. And also, if we're bringing in a director of football, which I've heard Todd Boehly heavily wants Graham Potter to be heavily involved in, then we just have to back him. He has to be on board with Todd Boehly, and they have to be on the same page. Otherwise, we may as well have just kept Thomas Tuchel. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, months. I think, it's a crazy season as it is already. As I've said 3 times on here already, we should be playing this weekend. So it kind of gives Graham Potter that additional time, maybe before the Champions League game against Salzburg, just the opportunity to see what the players can do. I'm interested to see what lineup he goes with. Does he change the formation? does he change the whole team? Does he bring in some of the younger players as well, or does he drop certain players based on their performances? It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I think change at the time is always a knee jerk or a shock when it happens, but like I said, we need to be on board with the manager, support him, back the players, back Chelsea 100%. This is what we need to do. And again, if things aren't working out, then of course they get questioned, they get called out. It's as simple as that. That's how football goes. But this has been T.Dot. It's a short video under the circumstances. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. Let us know your thoughts about Graham Potter, the sacking of Thomas Tuchel also, and the director of football. Who would you like to see come in? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be back with a podcast episode very, very soon. This has been T.Dot. Until next time, stay safe, and thanks very much for watching.